My name is Teboho Edkins. I'm from South Africa. I'm here at the Cordoba Film Festival presenting two films in competition, Gangster Project and Thato. I also have a project in the co-production market called Days of Cannibalism.
Tell me first about Thato. What is Thato about?
Thato is a very simple film. It's a friend of mine invited me to accompany her as she gave birth to her child. So it's a half-hour film that just sort of very simply follows her while she gives birth to her child. The thing is that she's HIV positive, so there is a bit of a question of how the child will, how the child's health will be when he's eventually born. It's a really important film because it's a third film in a series I've done about people living with HIV in Southern Africa, and I find that's really important today because, in fact, the child is healthy, and it's sort of not that the crisis is over, but there's sort of a solution to the crisis. In my previous films, there always seemed to be such a kind of hopelessness about the disease, but this film is really very gentle and very hopeful, and it speaks about overcoming this epidemic in some way.
Gangster Project is a very different kind of film. It's a film within a film. Describe to me.
Gangster Project is a very different kind of film. Gangster Project is about me wanting to make the perfect gangster film with real gangsters in Cape Town. So it's about the process of making a film with gangsters.
But the gangsters are not as you imagine them, are they?
No, the gangsters are not. Well, it's quite funny because I go out and I look for a cinematic gangster. I look for a gangster who's good looking, a gangster who's got a nice car, a gangster's just as I imagine them to be. So
doing gangstery kind of things.
Doing gangstery things, and I go through this sort of casting process where the first one is great, he's a big gangster, but he's got like too many children, it doesn't quite fit the expectations. The other ones are very dangerous, but they're sort of they look a bit too rough, yeah. The third one's a bit too traumatized, yeah. And then I find the perfect gang, and they're really polite, and they kind of invite me to their house, and it's all good. And then slowly, sort of a disillusionment sets in, and gangster life is not quite what one expects it to be. The violence is small and petty and disgusting, and they're very bored. They spend time sort of in their house, watching the clock, and are paranoid of being shot in the street. So the film is kind of about this process.
So it's about the distance, in a way, between the reality and
and
the image.
Exactly, but then I act in my film as well, because I have this sort of question at the beginning: how does one do a gangster film if one is not gangster oneself? And especially as a white South African, if you go and sort of point the camera into someone in the township, there's an immediate kind of problem of sort of status and power relations, and I felt that was the most honest way for me to show this problematic would be by acting in the film myself. So one sees me sort of as a kind of very naive, sort of young bourgeois white boy going out and wanting to meet gangsters, and then eventually throughout the film going through this process of initiation and kind of growing up and shaving his head and having to take drugs with the gangsters and sort of going through sort of rites of passage, so that the film he makes at the end is much more mature than the one he tries to make at the beginning. It sounds terribly complex, but it has various layers.
Okay. And so, what's the next film you're working on at the moment?
I'm working on I've got two films that I'm sort of finishing up right now. One is a follow-up on the Gangster Project. Another is a documentary. And the film that I'm pitching here, which is my third project, is it's a film between the south of China and Lesotho, and it's a contemporary Western.
Thanks for talking to me today.